You're live. Oh my goodness, it's a miracle. Hey everybody, we got two viewers. Hey, say hi in the chat. Um, yeah, sorry I'm late. I pressed the go live button like 12 times and it just came with a spinning wheel of death. Just spins and spins. It says going live, spinning. So that was fun. But I'm here now. Tell me if my audio's good. I'm gonna try to check it here. All right, let's see. Reload that page. It says I'm live. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good enough for me. All right, all right. We're here. Woo! Like I said, it wasn't easy. Okay. I do have some brand new audio. I'm hoping that the audio sounds really good. It sure looks fancy, right? Um, Sounds great. All right, awesome. Yeah, here I am. It's Friday. It's 2:30, end of the week. I feel like this is a good way to end the week. It's pretty fun to do. It's fun for me. I had a great time in the last live stream. Hoping we can do it again. So I'm here for the live viewers. I want to talk about anything you want to talk about. If you have something that you're inspired to mention in the chat, please send a message and tell me what you want to talk about. I would love to talk about what you want to talk about. Until I get some ideas, I will just go off of what I came up with. I wish I had some more time to prepare. I said that last week. I probably said that every week. This is our fourth live stream. I guess I should mention starting ugly. That's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm starting ugly. Fourth live stream of all time, and just got my stuff together. It's like hanging on by a thread over here. I'm supposed to have cable management. I don't know. It's ugly, but at least it works, right? It's funny because YouTube, you think it's all about the video, it's all about the visuals, but the number one most important thing in YouTube is audio. So that's why I invested in this microphone. I'm excited about it. I can get real good audio with this guy. So all right. While we wait for anybody to give me an idea, let's see. Yeah, so my wife and I were driving home last night and we were listening to a variety of things. Um, yeah, way of service ASMR. Exactly. That's why I got this. That's why I got this. The number one reason. So we were on our way home from town last night. It's like an hour drive. I don't know if you've noticed, but we live in the sticks. Okay. Um, and we're listening to things, we're talking to each other about some different things that we've seen. We both love to learn and observe all the things that have gone on. And I've realized that there's a lot of perspectives that we don't agree with anymore, because we've started to realize that any perspective that's like really strictly, like, anybody who comes to you and is like, I have the truth and that's it, that's the only truth, like, I'm immediately now like, okay, bro, you obviously don't get it, because all truth is a paradox. Basically, all truth contains, you know, aspects of this, aspects of that. We live in like a three-dimensional world, but the truth is like multidimensional. It's like infinitely dimensional. So when you look at something from a different angle, you can see how something is true. That's why a lot of people argue about, relative truth versus objective truth. And I used to be of the mindset that objective truth is totally correct and relative truth is always wrong. But yeah, so closed-mindedness. Yeah, I mean, it's just people who think that they have the answer and that's it. And then they take every, like, they have, it's like isms, right? Even Taoism, Lao Tzu says, if you try to take my teachings and turn them into a religion, they will elude you. So it's like, if you try to take something and put it into a framework and, well, I guess I should give you the real example. My wife has been just started reading this book called Growth Mindset. At least I think that's what it's called, but it's about the growth mindset. And the growth mindset is like the key to a happy life, right? It's the idea of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset says you have all the talent and all the intelligence and all the ability that you're ever going to have, and you just have to make it work. And the growth mindset is I'm not where I want to be and I never will be, right? Like I'm always going to be growing, I'm always going to be working towards some ultimate some ultimate goal. Um and what's important about this is that you realize that anything you're doing, if you try to think about the objective or the goal to get yourself to do it, it's always going to feel like work, right? You know, it's like everything comes back to my "Don't Work Hard" video, or it says "Never Work Again," but is that's the title is "Never Work Again." And if you're trying to get some goal and that's what's motivating you, it's always going to be work, and you're not going to do a good job. There's literally scientific studies that show that this is true. The athletes and the performers and, whatever field it is, they always perform better if they're thinking about the process. If they're focused on the process, they're excited about the process, they want to do the process. And the ultimate goal like doesn't matter. I was playing tennis last night and I feel like I've totally embraced this. Like not thinking about where I am in the match, just like keep your eye on the ball. It's almost like just sticking to the basics, sticking to the most simple thing you can think about, and from that everything flows. Versus like, oh, this is the score, and I can't believe we lost that last game, and now we're in trouble. Like we have to win this game, and if I don't do this and that, we're gonna lose, and I don't want to lose, and like all these thoughts, right? It's like staying in the present moment, right? This is a spiritual truth that there is only the present moment. Even the past and the future only exist in the present. Our concept of the past, our memories of the past exist in the present. Our visions of the future exist in the present. And the idea is that almost like time is an illusion because there is only the present moment. And this is another like paradox. It's really hard to get your mind around, but it's helpful to remember that when you're thinking about this stuff. So growth mindset keeps you in the present moment. And so my wife was talking about it and she was bringing up different aspects of her life and our life. And she was like, "Well, is this a growth mindset or is this a fixed mindset? Is this growth?" And eventually I told her I was like, "Look, not everything is going to fit into this dynamic that you've discovered. You're really excited about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, but you can't explain all of your life through it. Some things are fixed, right? Um, and some things just don't work with the theory. So that's kind of what got me going on this idea that any person who thinks that they're going to just give you the answer. It's like, hey, if you just understand this, you've got it all figured out. It's like, okay, you don't have it figured out. If you think that that's true, you don't have that figured out. Okay. Um, and I mean, basically, and I think I said this in the last live stream, it's like life is an infinite mountain, right? You will climb to ever greater heights and you will look back and you will see how great it is that you've climbed to this height. But when you turn around and look at the mountain, you will see there is still an infinite mountain ahead of you. So if you try to escape this truth with some ism or some like final answer about life, you will fail and you will descend into confusion. Um let me see. We got some chats from Yale and Eleanor. Hi Yale and Eleanor, two of my favorite people in the world. I've known both of them for a very long time. Yale for probably longer than I've known anybody besides my parents. Let's see. Yale says people like that are not worth talking to because it is going to be a one-way conversation. Oh man, that is so true. I totally agree with you. And it's so frustrating to end up in a conversation like that. Like, if you try to talk spirituality or religion with somebody who has a very strict religious mindset about something, there's no nuance. There's no give and take. There's no discussion. And it's always pretty disappointing. I don't think that means you can't learn anything from listening to them. could still have correct points. Totally. Yeah, I mean, there's truth in everything. It's just as soon as you try to say it is the truth, that is the only truth, that's where you run into trouble. And that's where, like you said, you have closed-mindedness. You're closed off to other truths. You're closed off to growth, you know? Um, Yale says sports are somewhere you flow state is pretty obvious. Right. Yeah, the flow state is being in the process, right? Versus, I mean, I don't know what you would call the opposite of flow state, but it's like not in the moment, it's like stuck in your head is the opposite of flow state. Like flow state is you're not even thinking, you're just doing the thing. I even said, I hit some good shots in tennis last night, and the other team or the people I'm playing with was like, "Wow, that's a really good shot. How'd you do that?" I was like, "You know what happened? I thought, oh shit," right before I hit the shot. I had no time to think about how to hit the shot, and then I hit a great shot, but only because I was just like, "Oh crap!" Like I don't, I just reacted, So that's the flow state, right? Eleanor says, one of the ideas from the growth mindset that really helps me is that the fixed mindset causes people to be having to prove how smart and talented they are, which takes them out of the moment. But that's when we have to have grace and patience because we have been there, done that ourselves. Yeah. 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 I mean, this is a big thing. And I want to do a video about this, like how to never have social anxiety ever again. That's going to be a title of a video. And if you're in the process of having a conversation, or if you're in the process of like being at a party, or I don't know, being in a meeting or whatever it is, being on the phone, talking to somebody, meeting a new person, if you're in the process of getting to know them and being interested in what they're talking about instead of like worrying about what they think about you, that's part of the fixed mindset. At least that's what came from me for you. It's like if you're trying to prove yourself, right? You're trying to prove yourself to this person. That's what you said, right? Prove how smart or talented they are. It's like you're really taking yourself out of that situation and you're stuck in, and this was something I was going to mention if we didn't come up with a topic, is the seven deadly sins. You're stuck in one of the seven deadly sins of pride. Or another one, I don't think this is one of them. Yeah, I've got the list here. Fear. It's almost like fear is the primary driver of the seven deadly sins. It's like the the father, right? It's like Satan um, is the father of the seven deadly sins. So all of the seven deadly sins, I would say, come from fear, and fear takes you out of the moment, right? So if you're fearful, so something I heard that was really powerful was approach people with love and not with fear. If you're tense and you're anxious, it's because you have fear of the other person. You have fear of what they're going to think of you. And that fear actually, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Our fears come true if we hold on to them and we focus on them. And this is a perfect example of that. Social anxiety comes true because we're fearful of what the person is going to think, and then we give off this really negative vibe, and then the person doesn't think well of us, right? Um, the last comment was to Yale's comment, not worth talking to, right? Yale says, true, it's part of growth, right? But some people don't keep growing. Yeah, right. Exactly. That is, and I mentioned this, and this I mentioned this another live stream. Um, the the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. Like if you're not growing, you're gonna really hurt your relationships. It's those situations where we're dealing with somebody and they just won't change. They won't admit they're wrong, right? They'd rather die than admit they were wrong. Um, and so then you just know how they're going to respond. It's going to be disappointing. You can't talk about this particular thing with them. You got to like dance around it and avoid it. And if you accidentally step in it, it's like, okay, this conversation's just done. So your relationships get in such big trouble when you have this fixed mindset and you're not willing to change and adapt and grow. Being open to being wrong, being open to examining yourself. Yale says the thing about fear is that it's not voluntary. Hmm. I think I disagree. I think I disagree. There is there's a spiritual teacher. He says like it's natural to have anger or fear or a negative emotion for, and he gives some funny number. It's like 14 seconds, right? Or like I forget. It might have even been less than that, 7 seconds. Or it's definitely less than 30 seconds because at a certain point you decide whether or not you're going to hold on to that negative emotion. The negative emotion comes, but then are you going to remember that you're okay, that, you have all these things that you want to do, you wanna grow, you wanna be open, you shouldn't be fearful. I say this in the elements video about, how your breathing tells you your state, right? So if you're breathing through your nose and you're breathing in a calm way, your body is relaxed. There's actually a biological process. It's called the parasympathetic versus the sympathetic nervous system. And when we breathe shallow and through our mouth, it actually activates, I believe it's the parasympathetic. I get them mixed up, but so one of them basically shuts down digestion, it shuts down the complex thought, and it puts you in the fight or flight response, and that's fear. And then the other one does the opposite. It brings more blood flow to the brain and to the digestion, all the things that the body can do when it's okay. And the point I make in the video is that our lives are never threatened. You know, our reptilian brain that runs these processes can't tell the difference between you getting anxious about something as benign as, I don't know, being late to work eh, versus seeing a hungry tiger come out of the jungle. Your brain can't tell the difference if you physically react and then stay in that reaction. So it's like as soon as you think, oh, I'm going to be late to work, you got to think through. It's like, okay, I can talk to my boss, I can explain, I can do this to make sure I'm not late next time and I'll be okay. Okay. And hell, even if I lose my job, maybe that's what was supposed to happen. Right. That's another thing. Remembering these spiritual truths, that's how you really eradicate fear, is that you realize that we are spirits and we will be okay. And that the universe and God will take care of the problems that we're worried about as long as we trust that He'll take care of them. And that's part of the lesson, right? Yale says fixed mindset equals NPC, growth mindset equals main characters. Yeah, right. Yale says, I agree, but I think I would define it more as anxiety than fear. Yeah, and I mean, this stuff is like, as we're talking about the growth mindset, I mean, this is life. Improving your ability to handle your anxiety is part of growing. That's part of life. If you were able to completely erase your anxiety, your fears, you would be this totally ascended master. And then you would have to figure out some other thing to work on, right? But I don't think any human beings are really there. Even the most advanced people, and some of these super spiritual people, I'm thinking of like Paramahamsa Yogananda or Jesus. I mean, even Jesus, he had to face his fear. He cried out on the cross, God, why have you forsaken me? You know? So no matter how enlightened and spiritually advanced you are, you're going to have these moments of doubt and difficulty, and that's what life is all about. I mean, we are not going to escape that, and the sooner we accept that, the sooner we're going to really enjoy the process. Fear seems more primal to me, but maybe that's just semantics. Yeah, when I say the word fear, I have seen it used in so many, that people talk about the opposite of love isn't hate, it's fear, right? And one of my favorite presenters, Mark Passio, he has a great diagram, and I wish I could share my screen to show it. But basically, it's like you have fear as a column, and then you have love as a column, and that's where you start. And he puts it as like love and fear of the truth. So if you fear the truth, then you have internal chaos or anarchy, because you won't face the truth. If you love the truth, you have internal monarchy. So you have total order and control over yourself if you love the truth, right? And then everything comes out of there. So fear leads to, internal chaos and external slavery, as he puts it, because the people who are controlled by their fear try to control the world. And that's a lot of what we see in the world today. And then his ideal is that if you love the truth and you have internal control, you don't need to try to control the world, and then we can all be free. So the opposite of slavery is freedom, right? So freedom comes from love, slavery comes from fear. So in a lot of these spiritual teachings that I've read about, in philosophical frameworks, love and fear are like very primary, I guess, emotions, right? Or powers or energies. Um, yeah. So all of that was to get into this quote that I wanted to share. Um, and this quote is what I thought of when I think of the people who, you read a book or you watch a video, and like Yale said, like they have great ideas, and you want to, like the growth mindset book, it's a great idea. But in the book, she's trying to almost fit all these different things into the dynamic. And that's when I feel like you start to get into what this quote is talking about. Okay. This is Lao Tzu's Wahoo Ching, passage 80. The world is full of half enlightened masters, overly clever, too sensitive to live in the real world. They surround themselves with selfish pleasures and bestow their grandiose teachings upon the unwary, prematurely publicizing themselves, intent upon reaching some spiritual climax. They constantly sacrifice the truth and deviate from the Tao. What they really offer the world is their own confusion. It's pretty harsh, right? But I believe that that applies to people who are trying to fit everything into the framework, right? And what I'm thinking of is like yin and yang, right? So if you're trying to fit everything into the framework, you're basically trying to say the world is pure yang or the world is pure yin. And it's never both, right? If you've seen the Tai Chi, it's the circle with the swirls and the dots inside. So each side represents yin and yang, but within yin and yang, there is some yin, right? So within yang, there is yin, within yin, there is yang. And so within, when you're like, everything fits into my framework, except everything doesn't fit into my framework. That would be being honest. So what happens, he says the world is full of half enlightened masters. It's like people who are like, I'm going to only accept half of the truth because that half fits into my box. And like the world is all yang. So I will only show you that part, and I'll try to ignore or brush aside the things that don't fit into my dynamic. And so as a result, what they offer the world is their own confusion, right? Another thing that this makes me think of is the right and the left, right? It's like if you are all the way on the left or you are all the way on the right, either way, you're wrong. I mean, there are subjects on which the right is correct, and there are subjects on which the left is correct, and there are subjects where there needs to be a mix and all this. It's far more complicated than saying, "Oh, I have the right political philosophy, and this is what it is." Okay? The true master understands that enlightenment is not the end, but the means. Growth mindset. That is one of the great sentences in this book. I'll read it again. The true master understands that enlightenment is not the end, but the means. Realizing that virtue is her goal, she accepts the long and often arduous cultivation that is necessary to attain it. She doesn't scheme to become a leader, but quietly shoulders whatever responsibilities fall to her. That was another key quote. It's like imposter syndrome. I think that's what brought this one up. The fixed mindset leads to imposter syndrome. It's like, well, I'm not good enough for this. I can't have the responsibility for this. Like I can't have a live stream that hundreds or thousands of people are going to watch, right? But no, I will never be as awesome at this as I want to be. That's the growth mindset, and that's the truth. right? We're all imposters because none of us are this perfect being that can do whatever task it is that's in front of us that we're trying to do. And so we should accept what comes to us, what responsibility comes to us, what jobs come to us. If we find ourselves in charge of many people, maybe that is, I mean, not maybe, I think that is where we're supposed to be. And there's no reason to feel like an imposter because you are here and it's your time now to rise to the moment. Whatever that moment is. If you find yourself in that moment, that's where you're supposed to be. God doesn't make mistakes. Unattached to her accomplishments, taking credit for nothing at all, she guides the whole world by guiding the individuals who come to her. She shares her divine energy with her students, encouraging them, creating trials to strengthen them, scolding them to awaken them, directing the streams of their lives toward the infinite ocean of the Tao. If you aspire to this sort of mastery, then root yourself in the Tao. Relinquish your negative habits and attitudes. Strengthen your sincerity. Live in the real world and extend your virtue to it without discrimination in the daily round. Be the truest father or mother, the truest brother or sister, the truest friend, and the truest disciple. Humbly respect and serve your teacher, and dedicate your entire being unwaveringly to self-cultivation. Then you will surely achieve self-mastery and be able to help others in doing the same. I love that sentence about being the truest father, mother, brother, sister, friend, disciple, student. All the things that we are in our lives. Can you seek perfection in each of these things, right? So Yale says, sounds like confirmation bias, huge issue. It's about being in line with reality, and just knowing what reality is can be quite the challenge. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why I have 5 steps to the way of service. Step 1 is to serve yourself, which is just to take care of yourself. Step 2 is to know yourself. Step 3 is to know the world. Step 4 is to serve the world, and 5 is to overcome difficulty. And knowing the world, I mean, that's one of the biggest tasks that we have, and this is growth mindset again. And this is something that I've realized in order to feel balanced. It's like I want to write and I want to produce content and I want to put things out into the world. But just as equally, I need to continue to take things in. I need to continue to read. I need to continue to listen to people who are ahead of me on all these different paths. And it's amazing when you do a creative process, it is very balancing to then receive other people's creative processes. And it's like an energetic thing almost, like you feel balanced. Yin and yang once again, right? Yeah. All right. So we got 3 viewers. Hello. Please, if you have a topic, I would love to talk about what you have to talk about in your life. Like if there's something that's bothering you, if there's something a difficulty you've run into, or a theme that's reoccurring in your life, I want you to put it in the chat. And I just feel like don't hesitate. Like just put it in the chat, because if it's in your mind, if it's in your life, it's there for a reason, and you're here for a reason. And I feel like I can help you. And that's what I want to do. That's the whole point of my entire project. Is the point of going live is to help people. So, all right. So until we get a topic, I wanted to mention the 7 deadly sins. I had mentioned it before, and this had occurred to me because some of these things, it's like, wait, but I kind of like that, right? It's like, oh, does it have to be a sin? I mean, I kind of like it. I kind of want to do that. And I realized that each of the 7 deadly sins has like a positive aspect, right? And again, it's like None of these things is absolutely bad, right? Well, Yale says he has a story. Well, get right now. I'll tell you what I was thinking, and I will. Then we'll get into your story. Um, so I was thinking about pride because pride is one of the seven deadly sins, and I feel like I'm proud that I am doing what I'm doing. Like I'm proud of the work I'm doing. I'm proud of the things that I create and I put them into the world. It's like pride. That's a sin, right? And it is a sin when you're like, well, look at me and look at those other people. They're no good. I'm better, right? That's negative, bad pride that leads into a dark place. But I realized that pride, and I think we need a different word, right? So pride is the sin, but what is it's almost like the virtue, right? There's sins and virtues, or the positive aspect. Because some of the things that I came up with, they're not exactly virtues; they're almost like emotions, right? Because pride is an emotion, but the light side of pride, I think, is joy. It's like happiness and satisfaction that you feel like that you're doing the thing, because it doesn't make sense to believe that we're supposed to be these robots that do things and then we're never proud, right? We never look back on what we're doing and say, hey, I did a good job there, right? Or hey, I could have done better. Like if we didn't have any emotional response to our life, it would be pointless. I mean, emotion is like basically this what colors our lives and gives us motivation and leads us into all the places that we want to go. So it doesn't make sense to me to totally get rid of pride, or perhaps to redefine it or to find the positive expression of it. And I feel like that's joy, right? Or satisfaction. Um, Yale says, I wrote my college admissions essay on the seven deadly sins and how each of them was actually helpful to me. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why it occurred to me, because it connects to you, right? I don't really remember how I spun each one, but a lot of them are obvious, as you were pointing out. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you you don't have the list in front of you. I'll tell you the list. Uh, Lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. Okay, that's seven. We just talked about pride. And I'm just kind of spitballing on this because I didn't write anything, and I'd love to write about this. I'm sure I will, but I was just thinking about it just while I was getting ready, setting up my microphone. I thought of pride, and I was like, man, is it really all that bad? Eleanor says my college dance thesis was a Seven Deadly Sins opera performance. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm supposed to talk about this, right? So let's see. What's another one that sticks out to me? I guess wrath. I thought of the positive aspect of wrath is like justice. Um, it's a really challenging thing because it almost feels like, and this is something that Taoism kind of says often, is like you're supposed to soften, you're supposed to yield, you're supposed to like let things go the way they're going. So when people do really, shitty things, and it ends up being shitty, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to just let them get away with it all the time? And I feel like the answer is no. But like, where do you draw that line, right? And that's justice versus wrath, and that's something that's pretty tough. I feel like I need to work on it in my life because sometimes I get angry, especially if there's people like close in my life that are not behaving the right way. Like I said earlier, people who won't change. They just have the same problem. And you try to tell them about it, it's like, this really bothers me. Like, I want to improve our relationship. I want to have a better relationship with you. I want to have a joyful, exciting, fun time when I'm going to see you. But you're stuck in this thing. Can you please change this thing? And they're just like, no, you're wrong, gaslight, like it's your fault, and whatever method they have of avoiding it, being defensive, like, no, you're wrong. Whatever it is, to me, it's like, when do we bring justice? When is it like, okay, then I'm not going to spend time with you, right? Or whatever the outcome is. And maybe the place to draw the line is when they're really doing harm, right? That's when justice needs to come in. Eleanor says justice is one of the 7 virtues. Oh, are there 7 virtues? I don't know. 7 virtues. Did somebody already? I'm sure somebody already figured this stuff out, right? The 7 virtues: faith, justice, prudence, hope, temperance, fortitude, and charity. Be interesting to see if those correspond with the 7 deadly sins. Yale says, I think you weigh the relationship if it's more harm than good, but it's more complex than that. Yeah, yeah, and the reason it's more and more difficult for me is because I've started the way of service, and it's like I can't be a hypocrite. So what is the correct way to serve? What is the correct way to deal with the situation that serves everyone, including the people who are doing the wrong? Because as you said earlier, it's like it's involuntary. That's what Marcus Aurelius said. I was just working on the video, splicing together the reading from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and he says that it's men do wrong involuntarily, right? And to abide in that wrong is a part of justice. That's the word he used, justice, right? And so to have patience for someone is actually justice. And so it's almost like where does punishment fit in? And as a parent, this is another very difficult thing that I deal with, or that we try to figure out is, you know, when do we really punish them? I feel like we don't want to, like, ever. We don't ever want to, like, pull the trigger on the punishment. We kind of tell them, here's the natural consequence. We're going to take this thing away, but we want them to just accept the threat, basically the threat of the punishment, and never have to apply the punishment, because the application of the punishment, it just feels wrong, right? It's like the death penalty, right? Like, I think there's a lot of people who think the death penalty is wrong, and I used to be, in favor of it much more strongly than I would say I am right now, because it's this total final punishment, and the action of it, like, that's why the executioner wears the hood, and that's why, maybe you've heard of this with a firing squad. That's why there's a squad of people firing, so that, and they give them all of them blanks except for one person. They don't tell the person who didn't have the blank in their gun, so that they can all think, maybe I wasn't the one that killed the person, because, we're trying to, so basically the application of the punishment spreads this like negative karma onto the person who's carrying it out. Yale says, what is your level of compassion? Do you think you are making that person's life better? If you're getting the short end, are you getting the short end of the stick? How long do you keep that going to help the other person at your own expense? Is that the right thing to do? You punish your children because you can do it in a controlled way. If you do not, the world will do it in an uncontrolled way. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And that actually that's a theme in the I Ching of, and like, it's in the Bible too. It's like, spare the rod, spoil the child. And I don't agree with beating children, but there are times when it's like, man, I would rather, like, give the child a spanking than, continue to tolerate this really negative behavior that's, like, damaging our lives. Um, but we don't do it. But yeah, I mean, parenting is I think it's one of the great challenges that there is. So for you parents out there, please comment and tell me what you think, how you deal with it. I think everybody does it differently. And this is another thing where it's like, there's no perfect right answer, right? There's no perfect right answer. There's no perfect framework that we can just put it into, um, and just be satisfied. Yeah, so wrath, justice, pride, maybe joy, maybe satisfaction. Um, see, fortitude, charity, temperance, faith. Yeah, this list of the seven virtues does not directly correspond with the seven deadly sins, which is, because nothing will fit into this framework, right? Trying to be like, okay, this one lines up with this, and then we can explain everything through the seven deadly sins and the seven virtues. But no, that's not how it works. Okay. Um, let's see. Sloth. I saw the word sloth and I thought of my never work again video, right? Because some people might see that or think of when I say never work again, it's like, what a lazy SOB, right? um, but to me, the light side of sloth is discernment, right? It's knowing what to spend your energy on and what not to spend your energy on. I was listening to a pretty good discussion about this kind of topic, and he said, you know, make sure that I might even be able to pull it up. Let's see if I can pull it up real fast here. Yeah. So he said, he's talking about your passions. He says, I strongly believe that if I prioritize my life, everything will fall into place and all areas will rise. Keep hitting it as hard as you can to make sure keep hitting it as hard as you can and make sure to be tuned into heaven to make sure time isn't being wasted on the wrong projects, right? So to me, it's better to be lazy, right? To be slothful. If you're the thing that you're going to go work on is not actually going to serve your life, because you need that space, you need that rest in order um, to find the right way, right? It's like in the Tao Te Ching, he says about, can you wait? All right, I just want to open it before I. Yeah, here we go. I love this quote. I'll have to read the whole thing, but do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment, not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things. The rest of this quote is so good, I have to read it. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There is no way to describe it. All we can describe is their appearance. They were careful as someone crossing an iced over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. I love that quote. It's got many highlights. I don't know if my Kindle says, yeah, 2,600 highlights by other people. So most people agree that that's a good one. There's another. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become as supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? And here's the quote that I thought of. Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? That's one of the hardest things, right? It's like no matter what's happening in our life, can we still trust God? and trust that the universe is going to make it work out? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. Yale says the first one about compassion, I'm talking about holding on to relationships with people that won't change. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we all face this question or this problem. It's like there's this person who won't change, but they're a part of my life, right? This is something I go back and forth in my life, in my head. It's like I want to like sever the relationship sometimes. I get so mad. It's just like cut them off. But they're in my life for good reason, right? And some of those reasons are really important, especially if they're really close family members. So and then like can I handle it? That's another question. Like am I really that disturbed and thrown off of my life by their behavior or is it just annoying? You know? Um I feel like that's, I'm almost talking to myself here. It's like, and there's situations where it is more than annoying. It really is damaging. And I think of like my children, like I have to protect my children from negative influences, right? But it's not cut and dry. It's not as straightforward as we want it to be, you know? All right, so we're halfway through. We got two viewers. I want to thank Yale and Eleanor for sharing their thoughts. Definitely continue to share whatever you might come up with. We've gotten through pride and wrath and sloth. Left, we have envy, greed, gluttony, and lust. So, for lust, I feel like it's like love, right? Or appreciation of beauty. I think people get, especially very religious people, it's like you're not allowed to enjoy sex. You're not allowed to, appreciate the opposite gender. And it's like, to me, it's like you've just sucked so much life out of life. Um, so, like I said, with all of these seven deadly sins, there's a light side and there's a positive way to engage in the energy without going to the dark side. And obviously, the negative side of lust, it leads to all sorts of awful things, people cheating on each other, broken families, broken homes, divorce. I don't know. There's plenty of awful things being done in the world in the name of money and power. And to me, money and power gets you sex. That's just true. And so people are making bad decisions because they're seeking this hedonistic pleasure. And so that's obviously the dark side, right? So let's see, we've got envy, gluttony, and greed still to talk about. Envy. I thought the positive aspect of envy is inspiration. If we can draw inspiration from the people that we see who are at a place that we wish we were, that's the positive aspect of envy. Instead of, coveting what they have, embracing that our journey to get to where they are is going to be totally different and it's going to be beautiful for us. It's not, we don't want what they have because we want what's coming to us, right? We want what our life is going to give us, not what somebody else's life has given them, right? So that's envy. And then we've got greed and gluttony. They're kind of similar, right? They even start with the same letter. Yeah, gluttony is like, I don't know, merriment, enjoyment. That's the positive aspect of it. You've probably heard of the idea, everything in moderation. And it's like there's some things maybe moderation is zero, like doing hard drugs or something. Like I wouldn't recommend doing that in moderation. But trying this or that, having one glass of wine, going out to dinner once in a while, a really nice dinner to appreciate the art of cooking, the art of food. I mean, I love food. Um, so let me know what you think in the chat about that word. I feel like merriment sort of there's I feel like there's another better word that maybe we can come up with, but it's not coming to me. And then greed. I mean, greed this is something I mentioned, like, I think a lot of people feel bad taking money, especially for their art or for, if they have imposter syndrome, they don't wanna be paid for what they're doing. But but if you don't get paid, you can't do it because you gotta go do something else for money. Um, so what is the fine line on greed? I mean, to me, you avoid greed by not seeking money for its own purpose, like seeking money as the goal in itself. Money comes to you because you're doing the right things. And also on the other side, you're not pushing away money. It's like you're not trying to avoid money because then you're going to avoid doing what you love. If you don't figure out a way to make it a business or make it sustainable, and like businesses are not sustainable unless they're profitable, unless it's a nonprofit that lives off of charity. Um, Yale says greed can be about more than money as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like if you're seeking comfort, it's similar to the rest of the deadly sins. This is something that I picked up, and I think it's a great idea. It's like all of the seven deadly sins are like an attachment to something physical in the physical world that you want and you think you need it, but you don't actually need it, right? So it's like all these things that we might want could fall under greed if it's like this thing's actually not going to improve your life. And I just released a video about social media, and there's a great quote in the Wahoo Ching. I actually read it on the last stream, but I feel like it's so good, it's worth reading again. Yeah, I'll just read this one sentence or these two sentences. If a new invention appeared, they looked for the troubles it might cause as well as the shortcuts it offered. They valued old ways that have been proven effective, and they valued new ways if they could be proven effective. So I think of greed with that. It's like new inventions and more stuff and more conveniences and more whatever it is. But is this actually improving your life? Do you need this thing? That's why the monastic lifestyle has this appeal. It's like you give away all of your worldly possessions and you just have one robe and like, a bed. And then you live in nature and you praise God for your daily bread and water, and that's all you need. And then you just meditate and you have nothing and you need nothing, right? And I think that that life is right for some people. Some people are inspired to live that way, and maybe it's not the way to be forever, but maybe one lifetime, right? If we come back for multiple lives, which I believe we do. Um, Eleanor says, I wonder what Lao Tzu would say about the concept of the seven deadly sins. Is it in Eastern tradition to have a tidy list and compartmentalize into an umbrella kind of concept? Yeah, probably not. um, you could be attached to becoming enlightened. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big theme in the Wahoo Ching. Um, Greed for enlightenment and immortality. It's literally the title of one of the passages, Greed for Enlightenment. I love the synchronicity, don't you? It's just so perfect. All right, let's read it. Greed for enlightenment and immortality is no different than greed for material wealth. Can you believe this? I'll read it again. Greed for enlightenment and immortality is no different than greed for material wealth. It is self centered and dualistic, and thus an obstacle to true attainment. Therefore, these states are never achieved by those who covet them. Rather, they are the reward of the virtuous, right? That's why you follow the way of service, right? You don't seek enlightenment, you just follow the way of service. If you wish to become a divine immortal angel, then restore the angelic qualities of your being through virtue and service. This is the only way to gain the attention of the immortals who teach the methods of energy enhancement and integration that are necessary to reach the divine realm. Wow. These angelic teachers cannot be sought out. It is they who seek out the student. When you succeed in connecting your energy with the divine realm through high awareness and the practice of undiscriminating virtue, the transmission of the ultimate subtle truths will follow. This is the path that all angels take to get to the divine realm. Yale says, I think we do get many things we need, but we also get things that will destroy us. The solution isn't to not progress as a society and culture, but to put a focus on personal discipline, which is what religion used to be and still is for some. Yeah. What is that? What is that song? It's like, you might not get what you want, but you get what you need. Right. And that's kind of what life is. This is a big topic that I'd love to talk about, or I plan to talk about. It's like, why does your manifestation fail? And I will not be another one of these like spiritual gurus that's like, you can have anything you want. All you got to do is visualize it and imagine that you already have it, and you will have it. And if you're not getting it, it's because you're just not doing the visualization right. You got to follow me. Like, listen to me. I know everything. Follow my meditation plan, and you will manifest everything that you can ever desire. No, sorry. That's not the way life works. And you wouldn't want it to work that way. If you just got whatever you wanted through meditation and through like not doing things, you wouldn't have to exist in the world. You wouldn't have to live your life. Our life has a very specific path, and we have very specific gifts that we have to give the world. We have very specific things that we have to experience and lessons that we have to learn. If we were able to just get whatever it is that we wanted whenever, we could avoid learning all those lessons, right? So you get what you need, you don't get what you want. And a quote is that I've got, I'll still steal this one. So the best thing to do is to want what you need, right? Can you do an I Ching reading before the stream is done? Yeah, I was actually like, I haven't done an I Ching reading in a couple of days, and I actually wanted to do one today, but I didn't have time. So yeah, if you have a question that you want to share, put it in the chat. And if you don't want to share it, that's fine. You can just say, I don't want to share it, but do a reading, and that'll work. You should do a call-in show. Yeah, I actually planned on doing a call-in show. But it's like a technical difficulty of, I basically have to learn how to do OBS streaming as opposed to using YouTube software, because then I can share my screen. I can change the way that the audio works and all that. So I want to do a call-in show 100%, but I do need people who want to call in, right? So right now you guys are in the chat, but we'll see if people want to call in. Yes. Okay, I had a thought, but it has escaped me. There was a quote I wanted to read, but let's see. Let's go back in the chat here. Yeah, you get what you need, not what you want. Yeah, we do get the things we need, but we all get things that destroy us. Yeah, and funny enough, it's like if you continue to seek the thing that's not really good for you, you'll probably end up getting it, and it's gonna screw up your life. Um, you think about like lust and greed and gluttony. I mean, all these things, all these sins, if you take them to the extreme, sloth too, pride. I mean, all of them are perfectly. We can all imagine, taking lust too far, taking gluttony too far, taking greed. You end up destroying your life. And ultimately, what is destroying your life? It's destroying your relationships. If you fall into the dark side, you will end up alone. And this is something I've always told myself, and I know is true. It's like, these people who live evil lives, but they're wealthy and they get all the sex and all the fame, but they're obviously not a good person. They don't really have any friends. They don't experience love because they can't. Because who could love this truly? And instead, they attract people who are there for their money and power and sex, and they don't get love, right? Because the people are there just for those things. They're not there for love. So it's almost like an either or. All right. So yeah, I guess let's do an I Ching reading, right? Eleanor asked for one. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the I Ching, it's a method of divination. It's from about 2000 BC. It's basically the core. This is one of the core texts of Taoism. Okay, and Lao Tzu himself speaks on the I Ching. He goes through a list of things that you should do in order to attain enlightenment, and then he concludes with this: of all of these steps, the most important for beginners is the study of the I Ching, which enables one to perceive the hidden influences in every situation and thus establish a balanced and spiritually evolved means of responding to them. Right. So basically, you cast the coins and you get yin and yang combinations. You cast them 6 times, and so you end up with 2 to the 6th power, which is 64. So there are 64 different hexagrams. Each one is numbered. Let's see here. So I'm going to cast the coins, and I'll tell you this. I thought of this today. The best question to ask the I Ching, you can ask it about anything in your life. You can ask it about something specific. You can ask it about relationships, your job, whatever. But to me, the best question, the easiest question is, what do I need to know now? All right. So I'm going to ask that question. What do I need to know now? So I like to write the question down. Right there. What do I need to know now? And then I'm going to cast the coins. There we go. So you do it 6 times, and then you write down the results. All right. The first one is unchanging yin. Five more times. Oh, dropped it. Yeah, that's what happens on a live stream. Okay. Yin again. Yin yin. That means we're going to get either earth or mountain for the first trigram. For those of you who know what I'm talking about. It is mountain. Yin yin yang. What are you laughing at, Yale? Yin, yin, yang, yin. Fifth cast. All right, got a changing line. So the idea behind the changing line is that yin and yang become their opposite when they go to their extreme. So when you get all three tails or heads, that's pure yin or pure yang. It's so much yin or yang, it actually becomes the opposite. So here we have pure yin, it becomes yang. So now I'm going to write the second hexagram with that line changed from yin to yang. Okay. And then I'm going to cast the final time. Oh, all yang, pure yang. So that is another changing line. Pure yang becomes yin. You think of like the idea that, you know, if someone is so rigid and so like trying to be strong that they're actually weak because they're too rigid, right? That's like pure yang and it becomes yin because it can't continue that way, right? All right, so now we've got the two hexagrams made up of these lines. And in order to look it up, okay, so we got mountain over mountain for the first one, changing into mountain under water. So then we go to the back of the I Ching to find which number it is. There's this handy dandy chart. All right, so mountain over mountain. I actually know that one is called keeping still, number 52. Keeping still. This is a big one. It's almost like telling you to meditate. It's like that's how, in order to move forward, you need to find stillness, right? But we'll read the passage. And then mountain under water, water on top and mountain below is 39. So that's keeping still and 39. Let's see what number 39 is. In obstruction. All right. I actually got this one a couple days ago. All right, let's read number 52 and the changing line. Keeping still. Still your emotions through meditation. Receiving this hexagram is a sign that you need to quiet your emotions so that you can think clearly. To answer the clamorings of the ego with action now is to invite misfortune. The I Ching counsels non-action and the stilling of the emotions through meditation. It is in the nature of having a body to have strong feelings and impulses. It's kind of what we were just talking about. It's in the nature to, have the 7 deadly sins, right? However, if we allow our thinking to be controlled by them, we cannot act with the gentleness, neutrality, and graceful wisdom of the sage. Instead, we move rashly when we ought to keep still, or we solidify when we ought to remain fluid. Therefore, it is necessary to quiet the body and its inferior elements so that our thoughts and actions may be clear and balanced. 3 things are advised. First, sit quietly in a self-supporting position with your back straight and eyes closed. Second, observe the flow of your bodily emotions. Do not judge or resist them. The simple practice of watching them come, linger, and go without acting on them allows you to gradually separate them from your thought processes. Third, turn your inner conflicts over to the deity for resolution. The help of the higher power is only made available to those who ask for it in a disciplined way, who make an offering of their stillness and mindfulness. Through meditation, we reduce the influences of the inferior elements and make it possible for the sage to assist us. Keep still as a mountain now, and you will be rewarded with good fortune. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's speaking to me. I feel like it's obviously it's in our nature, especially in Western civilization. Whenever there's a problem, it's like, okay, how do I go fix this problem, right? What do I need to go do right now to fix this and to improve the situation? But often, what we really need to do is to meditate. If you don't actually take the time to meditate, those insights that will come will never make it to you, and you'll be stuck in this mind of thinking. Like there's that Einstein quote. I think it's attributed to him. No problem can be solved on the level that it was created on. So by meditating, and it's mountain over mountain. It's like putting yourself on top of that mountain and having the right perspective over the problems that you're facing. All right, so that's keeping still, mountain. And we got the top two lines changing. So we'll read the changing lines for these. Restrain your speech. An active tongue betrays a restless mind. Tranquility on every level is advised. Does that mean I'm supposed to end the live stream? And I don't think I can't run a live stream and follow that advice right now, but I guess I can follow the advice in 18 minutes. Perseverance in stillness, in both thought and deed, forms a noble heart. The ultimate fruit of a noble heart is complete peace of mind. Perseverance in stillness, in both thought and deed. Yeah, I mean, it's basically just saying, like, shut your mouth and go meditate. So I don't know about you guys, but apparently that's what I'm supposed to do. All right, so the other one is obstruction. Let's see what it has to say. Obstruction. Surrounded by obstructions, one must first retreat, then seek the direction of the sage. It's funny because when you're doing YouTube videos, doing a YouTube live stream, like I want to deliver uplifting, positive messages, but sometimes you get a warning from the I Ching, and you got to be ready. Sometimes you're going to get warned. It's like, hey, you're heading into some problem. Maybe you should take heed, right? There's an old saying which fits this hexagram. You are caught between a rock and a hard place. In other words, you are surrounded by obstructions. As much as you may want to blame others for the difficulty, in all likelihood, the true obstruction is your own thinking. What is called for now is a retreat into self-examination and self-correction. Emotions of desire, fear, or anger may tempt you to take action now, but do not be seduced. The presence of these strong feelings is proof that you are off balance and need to steady yourself. As long as you try to forcibly achieve external results, rather than carefully following higher truth step by step, you will be obstructed from making personal progress. I feel like that reminds me of growth mindset versus fixed mindset, right? Whenever we indulge in judgments about others, we obstruct our own peace of mind and progress. We should choose instead to see the best in others, allow them to come and go as they will, and turn our energies inward towards self-improvement. Often the faults in our own thinking are revealed only with the aid of others. You would be wise now to seek the advice of a qualified counselor or truth-minded friend. Retreat, self-examination, and self-correction will remove the obstructions that block your path now. Seek the advice of a qualified counselor or truth-minded friend. That seems to be very helpful. Sometimes we think we have to solve our own problems. And then the other thing they said, often the faults in our own thinking are revealed only with the aid of others. So the first thing I thought of was, we were talking earlier about dealing with people that won't change, that we want to cut out of our life. But often these people are reflecting to us something important in our life. And so it's almost like, be they a trusted friend or counselor, or even someone that you might think of as an enemy, either way, they might be the ones that are helping you to figure out what is truly in your mind, your heart, the thing that you might need to change to make progress in your life. So that's what I thought of there. All right, kiddos. We got 15 minutes left. Maybe it's because I haven't eaten anything, but I'm like kind of running out of steam here. You don't learn much in a bubble. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, that was the quote. Yeah. All right. That's what I'm looking for. The inspiration. Man, is it really 4 o'clock? Oh yeah, because I started late. Oh, jeez. Okay. Well, we'll ride out the natural conclusion here. And if there's any more ideas that anybody has, yeah. Yeah. So difficulty. That was what I wanted to talk about. Yes. Oh, this is such a good quote. All right. And I've read this before, but remember, it is not that those who cultivate wholeness and virtue in themselves do not encounter difficulties in life. It is that they understand that difficulties are the very road to immortality. By meeting them calmly and openly, however they unfold, and joyfully developing themselves in response to them, they become as natural, as complete, and as eternal as the Tao itself. They understand that difficulties are the very road to immortality. You know, we seek escape from difficulties. We seek the end to our problems. And it is a great thing to solve a problem and to get it out of your life, to move on, move past, especially if you've been dealing with the same problem for a long time. But the next problem will arise. The next difficulty will arise. And that is life. That is what makes life worth living. It is not in the ease and the escape from problems and escape from difficulty that we live a good life, but rather through the meeting of the next challenge. You know, as part of growth mindset and the idea of being always being outside your comfort zone, you know, always doing something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone is how we grow and how we make progress in a real way in our lives. Because if we just stay in our comfort zone, everything stays the same, right? All right. Well, it's past 4 o'clock. I'm out of steam. Does anybody have any ideas? You throw it in the chat. But otherwise, I think I'm going to call it here. I read some great quotes, some of my favorite things. We'll do a random reading out of the Wahoo Ching. Let's see. We got number 52 from the I Ching. Let's see what number 52 is for the Wahoo Ching. Oh, synchronicity. It's about meditation. It's literally so 52 from the I Ching is keeping still and is telling you to meditate. 52 from the Wahoo Ching says, do you think you can clear your mind by constantly sitting in silent meditation? This makes your mind narrow, not clear. Integral awareness is fluid and adaptable, present in all places and at all times. That is true meditation. So I guess that's the other side of it, right? If you meditate too much, that's also a problem. Who can attain clarity and simplicity by avoiding the world? The Tao is clear and simple. It doesn't avoid the world. Why not simply honor your parents, love your children, help your brothers and sisters, be faithful to your friends, care for your mate with devotion, complete your work cooperatively and joyfully, assume responsibility for problems, practice virtue without demanding it of others, understand the highest truths, yet retain an ordinary manner. That would be true clarity, true simplicity, and true mastery. All right, everybody. I'm going to leave you with that. I love you, and I will see you next week. Check out my latest video. I just put one out about social media, and I plan to come out with another video next week as well. Good night, and enjoy your weekend.